Hello everyone, welcome to my video. My name is Fernando and I'll talk about teaching productive skills, in this case speaking. To begin with my topic, I would like to mention that communication between humans is an extremely complex, ever-changing phenomenon, that there are certain generalizations that we can make about the majority of the events, and there will have a particular relevance for the learning and teaching of languages. Learning to speak a foreign language is much more complex than knowing its grammatical and semantic rules. It involves both command of certain skills and different type of knowledge. According to Richards 2005, states that learners must acquire a knowledge of how native speakers use the language in context of structured interpersonal exchange in which many factors interact. The ultimate goal of language is communication, and the aim of speaking a language is to promote communicative efficiency. Of the four skills, speaking seems intuitively to be the most important. That is why, according to UR 2006, people who know a language are referred to as speakers of that language, as if speaking including all the kinds of knowing, and many of them, if not the most. Foreign language learners are primarily interested in learning to speak. That is why people engage in conversations for good intentions and for good reasons. The first one, they want to say something, or speakers often make a definite decisions to address other people. Otherwise, they would keep silent. Also, another reason is that they have some communicative purposes. In this case, it means that they want something to happen as a result of what they say. So they pay attention about what they say in order to know what they want to communicate through their message and speaking. So what is important, the message? It is important because they wish to convey the effect they wanted to have. Imagine you are an ESL class. The teacher comes and says, "Today we are going to talk about pollution. How do you feel as a student?" Why might you not feel taking a part in the discussion? The teacher wants to say something and I didn't have time to think, and I don't know the words for this topic. Have you experienced that situation? As this student is running a discussion in a lesson, something anyone can do? Do you need any experience to do that, or just go and talk? What would be the effects of a class like this and one described above? What do teacher to do make their students talk? Well, let me tell you that there are some research and practice have shown that communicative activities and the key point to make our students speak. So it's crucial to have our learners involved in communication. Otherwise, that communication will probably not affect. Learners should use the language in a way they can achieve an objective, and this objective should be the most important of communication for communication purposes. Also, they should select from their language store. Always or sometimes speakers have an infinite capacity to create new sentences. In order to achieve these communicative purposes, they will select the language they think is appropriate for this purpose, for this situation, for this scenario, etc. If students have a purpose to speak, their attention should be centered on the content of what is being said, or written in this case, and not the language for which is being used. However, the students also will have to deal with a variety of language rather than grammatical construction, sentences, reading and listening, and some other exercise very important for communication purposes. So while students are involved in communication activities, the teacher should not intervene a lot. It means that fluency is more important than accuracy at this stage. So we'll have some we will see some tips that make students speak more effectively. In this case, we have teach specific strategies to facilitate this effort to speak effectively, work on pronunciation, do not demand a native speaker pronunciation at all. The primary emphasis on pronunciation in other strengths and intonation. Avoid topics that are not familiar with them and their mother tongue. Give them time to think what they want to say. Be the monitor properly. Be sensitive at correcting mistakes. Remember that you have to make them know that everyone can make mistakes, and by making mistakes they will learn. Also, give them time. It might be easy, but it is not important to provide students with spontaneous language for classroom use. With teachers' guidance, it is important to devise techniques to make students produce spontaneous, authentic language, and in this case, even our other learners. Then we have the teaching productive skills. What are teaching productive skills? Well, the procedure of teaching productive skills involves different steps, such as what is meant for productive skills, why are they important in language, how to structure a productive skills lesson plan, what elements should be considered in teaching productive skills, etc. So the first step, as I mentioned before, is to know what are productive skills. Productive skills refer to the skills that enable the learners to produce language in written or even spoken forms. It means, for example, speaking and writing. The importance of productive skills in teaching means a lot, because productive skills, speaking, and in this case, is important because it is the observable evidence of language acquisition. So the more the speaker or the writer produces appropriate and coherent language, the more we can approve of the progress in the learner's language system. So furthermore, teaching productive skills is also important because spoken communication are basic like skills. So in real life, people generally may need to inform, convince, or share ideas, as I mentioned in the beginning. So they are also sometimes required to take notes, fill in forms, write emails, make role plays, perform a conversation, tell a story, tell a joke, etc. Then we have the speaking lesson plan. Unlike a lesson plan, in addition to understanding and interpreting the discourse, a productive skill lesson plan aims at helping learners produce appropriate and coherent message either in spoken, written forms. It is true that making sense of and being able to process the input is important, but what is essential involved in the productive skills is mainly the ability to convey information, convince, or share ideas and feelings. The productive skill should have the productive skills lesson plan should have some characteristics. In this case, it must be for speaking. And the speaking lesson plan should have the following characteristics. The speaking lesson plan should take into account consideration the following points. Lesson aims at helping the others communicate. It is unhelpful to provide a topic and ask the learners to speak. Some preparation also is needed for before setting the task. Generally, we cannot talk and write about something we know nothing about. Also, the choice of the speaking or the topic is important. The learner should be familiar with it, so you have to take into account different situations, different characteristics of individuals, in this case, in order to choose your topic. Before asking the learners to produce the language, we have to equip them with techniques and strategies to facilitate the efforts to speak effectively, in this case, using different speaking activities, also speaking exercises that let them know or that stimulate their speaking ability, in this case. Before asking the learners to produce the language, as I said before, We should break down all mistakes. Also, when difficulties arise, learners have to be able to use specific communication strategies. Since the aim of teaching speaking is to produce the language that makes sense to the learners, readers, and speakers, the lesson should be designed systematically to include the stages that prepare the learners for the main activity. For example, speaking in this case. Activities that help them to actually produce appropriate messages, finally some sort of produce appropriate feedback, and either peers or teachers regulated. Ideally, teaching appropriate skill production involves providing a model text, comprehension and model analysis, practice working on the language needed to perform the task, planning and structuring the output, production, preparing for the spoken task and going through the process of drafting, revising, editing, etc. Feedback, self or peer-regulated feedback using a checklist or teacher-regulated. Teaching productive skills also involves provide a model of target genre we want our students to produce. Work on the model, focus on the meaning and form the language should guide the learners to analyze that they can discover by themselves its linguistic and formal features. After isolating the different linguistic and formal of the model task, the learners have to work on accuracy activities. The objective at this stage is to practice the form and use the language that will help them to produce accurate messages in terms of pronunciation, spelling, verb tenses, sentence structure, and text layout. After we feel learners can use the target language, we will be able to know that they will improve some areas. Some planning and preparation is needed before production. In this case of a speaking skill, the learners have to structure this course individually, pairs or groups before actual production. Feedback can be given by the learners themselves or by the teacher to give much more value to the learners' productions. It is advisable to post the video recording of their conversation on their writing social media such as YouTube, Facebook, or another class blog if there is any. In this case, as we are doing in this homework. What elements should be considered in teaching productive skills? When teaching productive skills, the teacher should also take into consideration other essential communicative aspects, such as the task. It should be to the point and should include a purpose, the target audience in this case, and information about the genre. It is an example of inappropriate productive task. What are the advantages or drawbacks of using smart mobiles? The above task can be assigned more appropriately as follows. You have noticed that your schoolmates are addicted to their cell phones. Write an essay and then talk about the essay drawbacks of using smart mobile phones to be published in the school magazine. The above task includes information about who is writing, what to whom and why. Who? You. What? An essay about the advantages and drawbacks of mobile phones. To whom? Well, in this case, it would be your schoolmates. Why? Because they are addicted to their mobile phones. Then we have the audience. The audience is an important aspect of communicative competence. It is to be able to adjust our language according to the status, sex, age of the audience in this case. The way we communicate with them, the way we communicate with a child is different from the way that we communicate with adults. Responding to a formal letter is different from the way we respond to a normal letter or a professional letter in this case. Moreover, we adapt our interaction according to the social status. That is why it is a social process in which addressing a person with higher status, such as judge during a trial, differs from addressing a friend. Language as output in this case may also be adjusted according to whether we are interacting with a male or female participant. Consequently, in any style of communication, the elements that constitute the audience should be taken into consideration. Otherwise, the communication may not appropriate and may even be flawed. Genre has gained so much attention in the teaching of productive skills. It is grounded on the view that text and conversation can be feasible and have understandable and predictable forms, structure, and purposes. According to Knapp 1997, different texts have different features and different purposes, and different conversations have different features and different purposes too. An application letter, for example, has certain distinctive features both at the level of the language used and at the level of its form. Also, an essay, a speech, a performing, a song, a poem, etc. Then we have the purpose. What is more, different genres have different purposes. An application letter aims at applying for a job in this case. Also, for applying for a job, we can use an interview to exemplify these characteristics. However, a personal interview may have other purposes such as informing, inviting, asking for help, etc. Knowing the conventions for producing different types of speaking or speeches is important for effective production. Now, let's move to the class. Welcome to the class. My name is Fernando and today I will be your teacher. We will have a very nice topic. Our topic is planning a party. In this case, we will move to the activity that we are assigned. In this case, the warm-up. The warm-up, as everyone knows, is a very interesting stage. It's an activity at the start of the class to warm up the learners. They tend to be short, dynamic activities, and warm-ups can be compared to coolers, which are short activities to finish the class. There are also numerous warm-up techniques which teachers use. In this case, I'm going to use one technique that is puzzles. In this case, I will use the puzzles in the class activity, in this case warm-up, because it will be a great stimulation for students in order to let them know what the topic is about. But first, it is important that the students may discover some features of the topic. So in this case, I will assign students to join in pairs, in trials, and then be the puzzle. Then we will ask them to discuss and share their ideas about their findings. It is important to mention that the time for this stage is important because it doesn't have to be very large. It has to be short, as according to the theory. Now we have the topics in presentation, in this case, presentation stage. Well, the topic, as I said before, is things you need for a party. In this case, I will ask some questions to students about what they see and what they consider are the things that everyone needs for a party. In this case, I will show some posters to them in order to let them feel interested in what they see, in this case through the use of posters. In this case, we have very interesting vocabulary such as carton of eggs, loaf of bread, bottle of waters, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's important if we are going to talk about vocabulary and different things that you pronounce first all the words that are new for them and then ask them to repeat one by one in order to let them know, understand, apply, and also pronounce in a better way the words that they see, in this case on the board, through posters, etc. Then we have the time to practice. In this case, I would bring some materials as the ones that appear in the presentation stage. And in this case, I would like, guys, I would say to them, well, guys, I would like you to practice what you already covered in the presentation stage, and I would like you to classify the types of the types of food in this case, according to the three meals during the day. In this case, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I will provide them with some papers, and I will ask him to join in pairs in this case, and discuss about the type of foods that they have. And after that, you will pass in front to the class in order to complete this activity and about what you consider is the best that describes every meal during the day. Then, in the second activity, I will ask them to write a shopping list, because it is important to in this case, to improve and to reinforce what they have learned during the presentation process. In this case, they will do a fill in the blank exercise with different articles, different types of food that they will cover during the day. So they will complete the fill in the blanks and will battle of, and will love of, with a bag of, etc. A vocabulary related to containers and quantifiers. And finally, in activity 3, I will ask students to practice the vocabulary through a worksheet, as I said before. And then I will ask them in this activity, in activity 3, to write a shopping list. Firstly, I will provide them with different pictures and names of different types of food. For example, bottle of water, bottle of soda, a cake, etc. In order to make them know what are the things that they need in order to make a shopping list. And after that, they will share your shopping list with the partner and then to the class. That would be in activity number 3. It's important to mention that when in the practice stage, everyone must be prepared, and everyone must be part of this practice, because the more you practice, the better you will understand what you have learned during the class. So then we will do the conversation practice. In this case, it's time for you guys to demonstrate what you have understand. So I would like you to join in pairs, and I will provide you with a short conversation for you to make a role play. Please practice it, and then we will pass in front to share your performance to your classmates. And I would like you to pay attention about what they perform, about what they speak, because later I will ask some questions in order to know if you have understood all the topic that we will cover today. As I said before, in the conversation practice, students will be asked to make a role play and have students pass in front. And this involves the wrap-up. The wrap-up will take place during this part of the production, because you will check the correct use of vocabulary and the grammar and structure, and All of this will be checked during the development of their first activity. Well, the materials that we were using in this class are posters, flashcards, worksheets, also name of the food in colored papers, etc. Thank you for your attention, and I will appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and thank you.